Looking at here is a $100 million investment in a mall in Nigeria. Run us through some of the investment motivation here, first of all, and what motivates this in Nigeria's real estate sector?
Well, firstly, I think that, as you know, Actis is focused on emerging markets, and we tend to focus on sectors and areas of significant growth within our markets. And clearly, in most emerging markets, particularly in Nigeria, real estate is indeed one of the areas that we expect continued growth, fueled by not only the economic development of the country, but certainly because of the tremendous growth in urbanization in terms of and consumer spending. So as we look forward into the future, we also understand that there's actually a need for modern retail space and also centers that are actually not just an area for retail development, but also areas that afford leisure and entertainment to a growing urban population. So as we look forward into that, we really have focused on destination leisure, shopping centers with restaurants, cinemas, and retail outlets as a significant area of opportunity. So for us, we tend to like projects that we feel bring real social and economic development to the countries in which we operate. And we believe that that's one of the things that we actually achieved with our previous developments of the Palms, as well as the development that we have in Accra, Ghana. In both of those projects, we saw one, significant contributions in terms of employment, not just direct employment within the malls, but the ripple effects that that has throughout the area, as well as the supporting companies to the retail ventures. So we're extremely excited to announce this and believe that it's going to be a significant contribution in terms of employment, in terms of leisure, in terms of entertainment, and social advancement to the Ikeja area.
Well, if we look at it, you've mentioned that you've got experience within this space. You've made this investment in the Palms in Nigeria as well. So you're certainly not a stranger to the merits that this kind of investment would boast. What kind of returns have you actually seen from that investment in the Palms? Because one would assume that it's naturally been, it's been good for you to take this next leap.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your question. If you could just repeat, please.
If you look at the kind of investment returns you've seen from your Palms investment, what are we looking at there?
Well, we've had, as I think, tremendous returns from that particular investment. We typically try to focus on a return that will get us something in the area of about a 25% IRR or 2.5 times investment back. And what I can say is that the Palms investment returned significantly well above our expectations, and we expect that we're going to see the same within the Ikeja Mall development as well.
If we look at this Ikeja Mall development, when it comes to financing the project, I see there's a mixture of debt and equity. What's the split there?
At present, what we're looking at, as we said, $30 million in equity investment is going to give us 60% of the equity stake. Our two partners are coming in for about a 40% stake, so just under 15. And we've put in debt right around $49 million, a debt facility that is supported by Stanbic IBTC and Standard Bank of South Africa. So right around in the area of just almost a 50-50 split.
So if we look at the kind of returns you're expecting from this, this investment, then what kind of targets have you put on internally and have been set as to when you will expect to start to see returns from this investment?
Well, as I said earlier, I think what's important to note is that when you are managing a portfolio, you're setting an overall return profile for your portfolio. And most of the time when we go in for our real estate investments, the target that we want to get in terms of the overall portfolio return is about 25% IRR and about 2.5 times investment return. So it's difficult to say there's an explicit individual target for this particular investment, because we do look at our investments on an overall portfolio wide basis.
If you look, I mean, you say that debt, it's looking at that debt to equity ratio, it's 50-50. I mean, is there pressure at all, and is there onus on the mall to perform, economically speaking, more quickly?
I wouldn't say so. I think as we look in, when we model the cash flows from such an investment, we are not necessarily taking an overly aggressive perspective, but what we try to do is to model something that we believe is realistic and that's looking at what are basically rental estimates that you could expect for such a development within this type of an area. I would say that what we're looking at is within, certainly slightly different from what you may expect at the Palms, just simply because the area is slightly different. But I do think that they are realistic. We do not expect significant pressure in order to be able to meet the debt servicing or any return expectations.
What are some of the challenges you do anticipate?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I think at this point, a number of the challenges have actually been overcome. When you enter into a project of this nature, some of the things that you're going to be expect is how you negotiate with your planning approvals, raising the debt financing, making sure that you've actually got a plan that meets the development area, that you've actually secured your anchor tenants. I think we are in an absolutely fantastic position, because from the debt providers we've had tremendous partnership from both Stanbic IBTC and Standard Bank of South Africa. We worked very well with Lagos State Government and with Governor Fashola and his team to get the planning approvals and to really be able to move things through. I think we've also been able to get tremendous cooperation from our potential anchor tenants, our future anchor tenants, who are well secured, and that being ShopRite as well as Silverbird. So some of the initial hurdles that one would expect, I think we've actually overcome, and there is quite a lot of interest in the retail space, so we don't expect to have challenges in terms of actually finding additional tenants for the mall. Going forward, clearly we're now in a position where we'll be doing the groundbreaking in the not too distant future, and then you will have the usual expectations of developing a project of this nature. We hope to conclude construction within about a 20-month time frame. And if you, those of you who were around, who were watching us build the Palms, this development went up at an extraordinary pace and actually did indeed hit most of the timelines that we expected.
Yep, well,
So
certainly the
moving
Palms
forward,
investment, sorry to interrupt, but the Palms investment was recognized for being the first world-class retail center in Nigeria and the largest non-oil and gas investment that was made in the country back in 2004. What about competition, though, Ngozi? I mean, in Africa's most populous country, which is fast growing and rapidly developing its consumer market, as you highlighted earlier, it's not going to take long before others cotton on to a successful strategy in this territory. I mean, what gives you this competitive edge, and just how sustainable is it?
Well, I think the first thing that's very important is that Actis, as an emerging markets private equity fund, has had just a tremendous length of experience within this market and certainly within the African market. As many people may remember, Actis had its birth really in the old CDC and became a private company about 5-6 years ago. And that has given us, I think, a wonderful platform because we know these markets. We have strong and deep relationships, not just in Nigeria, but across many other markets. Secondly, we were very fortunate to have started within the real estate private equity world fairly early on. We raised our first major fund in 2006, and we have a number of projects across Africa, in Tanzania, in Kenya, Ghana, as you know, and Mauritius. So I think we've had experience in bringing these types of projects to fruition, which many others don't. As I said earlier, this is our third leisure and destination shopping center within West Africa, and no one else has actually done that. I think the other thing that really differentiates us from many of the others is that we've got a tremendously strong team. Our team, in particular on Real Estate is headed by David Morley, who's based in London, but on the ground here in Nigeria, I'm joined by two individuals who really focus 100% of their time, Chudi Ejekam and Funke Badajo.